Welcome back. I'm here with Glen Wagstaff, founder and managing partner of Vivos PLLC. Glen, what would you say to someone who doesn't think that it's necessary to control what happens after they're gone?
That's actually something that we get asked quite frequently. A lot of people think that when they're gone, that they don't want to be the dead hand rising up from the grave and controlling their kids or grandkids, right? But the reality is that most people have opinions and they have values that they would want to maintain even after they're gone. For instance, my kids are all young, they're all under 5. If I'm not around, I would want to have a say in how they're raised. I would want to have a say in what kind of dates they go on and what kind of movies they watch and what religion they're raised in. And so I really do want to have some level of control, and I think most people do, but they don't want to be over-controlling, right? And the interesting thing from a financial standpoint is that the average inheritance lasts less than 7 months. And so if you don't provide some guidelines, it might not actually do what it's intended to do. And the whole reason for leaving an inheritance is to put them in a better position than they would have been in otherwise.
Now, the thing that most people tend to think of is how they're going to be remembered when they're gone, what people are going to remember them for. What do you do to help shape that legacy for them?
When somebody's gone, they want to be remembered for what they stood for. Part of the planning process, really planning shouldn't be about just assets and what you own. It should be about what you value. So part of the planning process should be providing a statement of those values. If you had 2 minutes to live and you could write down or tell your family, what was important to you and what you stood for and what they should feel is important to them, how they should live their lives, what would you tell them? And most of us never take the time to think that through, but a lot of us, that's the core of who we are and what we would want to pass on. So that's part of the planning process.
I often see people in their final moments trying to leave that kind of last memory, but you're saying that you can do that ahead of time.
Of course. I mean, the more that you live your life in a way that everybody knows what you stand for, the more likely that your values and your legacy is going to live on after you. But why leave it up to chance? Write it down, put it in the form of value statements, embed it into your planning. Don't just leave money, but leave guidelines of how that money is going to be used, how maybe the other opportunities that you're leaving behind for your loved ones should benefit them, and what you stand for, and so on and so forth. And a lot of it really comes down to not just leaving the values, but leaving the stories of your life, because that's what tells them why those values are important to you. Without that context, it might not be important to them, right?
I can definitely see how that would be important to plan for. So I remember some stories, but there are also others that get lost along the way. How do you prepare for and plan to leave your stories behind?
So one of our prized possessions as a family is the recording that we have of my great-grandfather telling his life story. And it's just a recorded interview where, we were in his kitchen and he was telling us about his childhood, about, his working years, about when he had kids and how they were raised and so on. And that's valuable to us because not only do we learn from that, but it tells us a little bit about who we are also. He also wrote down his life story, his personal memoirs, and that's something that everybody in the family was able to get a copy of. Sometimes things can't be left to everybody, but stories, those values, the essence of who you are, those things can be.
That's fantastic. Thank you.